Alright guys, time for a little disclosure here, full disclosure. I removed one of my frets. I had them all in there, and I took one back out because following this radius over, it wasn't down really tight on the edge over here, which, you know, I could have, and which you'll see later when we start leveling the frets. It would have leveled out. You know, I could have leveled it from being, it had been just a little high there, but I just wasn't comfortable with leaving it when I can go ahead and fix it now. You know, when I started examining my work, it was up just a skosh. And I didn't like it. So, and the problem was when I'm doing this, these are the fret pulling pliers. You can pull them with the other ones too. It's just a little easier with these. I've been trying to use the fret pulling pliers to get a little more drop on those edges so that doesn't happen. Well, I just didn't get it. I didn't get enough of the radius toward the edge, so I pulled it out and cleaned out the groove, the slot, whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to go ahead and put one back in so I have a good tight fit. I just wouldn't have been happy with it. And I'm one of those guys that just rather, instead of fight with it or worry over it or have it weigh on my mind, I'd just rather go ahead and deal with it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one back in and start with those edges. Tap the edges in and go across. Now that's good and tight all the way across the radius. I don't have to worry about it. Okay, I got that fret back in there. Pulled the clamp. Went ahead and nipped the edges off. Now we got to straighten the neck. I use more tools that I made. You know, you can buy these. What I did, I just took. Let me see. What is this? I'll tell you exactly what it is. Aluma flat, 1/8 inch by 3/4 by 3 foot piece of aluminum. And I've got the frets notched out to where you can lay it on here. Now this doesn't fit every guitar. I've got a Corona Custom Shop Telecaster. The fret spacing's different on it. You know, you have different necks and so on and so forth. That's going to require different length and different fret spacings and so on and so forth to fit all the way down. This one happens to fit my Stratocaster and this neck. And I use it for different things, you know, primarily to level necks with. But you can also get your measurements as far as string height and so on and so forth, the amount of neck relief, all that kind of stuff you can measure with these. So, but what this does, this alleviates the height of the fret out of the equation. I'm just looking for this gap. This goes top of the fretboard all the way up. I'm looking at about maybe a 1/16 of an inch of relief in this neck. What I got to do is get that out of there. I want it perfectly straight. So I'm going to want to tighten the truss rod until I get that exactly level. Light helps. You know, I'm looking at what I'm doing. I'm looking through this. I can see this behind here. And I've got that light on so it's shining off of that piece of metal. I can see I've got just a shade more to go. And we'll have this neck perfectly straight. That is almost it. I'm almost there. Just another touch. Yeah, I'm going to call that good right there. Alright guys, back to dealing with what we've got. It'd be nice if I had a big jig set up to put this neck in to hold me true. I don't have that. So what I've done I just turned this, the neck cradle, turned it sideways and clamped this to this desk. I'm going to take this file and go down through here and get all of those little tabs that are sticking up. I'm going to take all those, you probably can't see it in the video, but when you nip that off, it leaves a little raised up piece of metal. I'm taking that all the way off, using the tape to keep me off the edge of the fretboard. They do make a tool for this. It's a wooden handle. It's a wooden handle with a file seated into it. You can go, you know, pretty much the same principle. If I did more of this kind of work, I just take care of my own guitars. I don't do this for a living. So I really can't justify buying all the tools that would make this job so much easier. I'm just going to go down through here and take all those little edges off. Okay guys, I don't know if you can see or not. I'm going to try to show you. This side, well, let's start here. This side hasn't been done. I don't know if you can see how unlevel that is and little pieces sticking up. This is the side I just finished. I just finished filing those and I moved my tape up under just where the fret meets the fretboard. And now I'm going to get as close to a 30°. They make a tool for this too that I don't have. It's kind of a sled that runs down through here, and it has the abrasive that will cut 30° across the tops of these from here where it meets back. So I'm just going to imagine the 30°. A lot of you guys have done carpenter work or know about geometry, and it's you know, where if you know where 45° is, just, you know, push it back a little bit and guess at 30. That's what I'm going to do since I don't have the tool for the job. And it's just to make it more comfortable. It has nothing to do with what it's going to play like, but you don't want your hand rubbing around on that. It's very uncomfortable if you could feel it. So we're going to push that back 30°, and then later we're going to come and bevel it all in and make it smooth. Alright guys, I'm getting ready to put some angle on this. Now 45°, looking here, something like that. I don't want 45°. I'm going to try to use just muscle memory and get 30° on this, or close to it. That's not an exact figure by any stretch of the imagination. It's kind of more of a rule of thumb. But you can see how that's coming along, and I've got the tape on here as a guide. If I start rolling that tape back, I know I'm getting very close to the edge of that fretboard and I can stop. Just going real slow. Beveling that back. And that's just about it right there. Alright guys, I finished putting a 30° bevel down this side of the fretboard. Now what I'm going to do, you still have this whole edge all around this has still got a sharp edge on it. So I'm going to take this file, and I got this in a kit. There's no cut face on this. It's just each of these sides. I'm going to go around that fret, around this side and around this side and over the top, and just enough to take that off of there. And that feels pretty good. It feels pretty good. You just want to take it off to where it's not going to be uncomfortable. And this side of the fretboard will be done once I do that. Then we'll be ready to level the frets. I don't think that, I don't know, I imagine if you were in a perfect situation, you could install new frets and they'd all be level, but I'm kind of doubting it because just the nature of this world that we live in, we don't live in a perfect world. And that is just the way that it is. I think we all understand that. Alright guys, with the neck straightened, the edges dressed, got all that done. What I need to do now is, this is one of those homemade tools. I don't have a sanding beam. They're about $188 a piece. And you can buy them, this 12-inch radius, you can buy a 12-inch radius beam, whatever, to fit, you know, whatever application. They're $188 a piece. I don't have $188 to spend on a sanding beam. So I took a piece of square stock and wrapped 320 around it. That's how I dress my frets. Actually, you're leveling your frets. That's what that's used for. The dressing comes later, but it's part of the process. I think you get what I'm talking about. Well, what I need to do is make sure that these frets are level, and the part of the process here is to take a Sharpie and die the tops and take it all to the lowest fret. That way you're consistent and you don't have the buzzes and rattles. I'm going to finish dyeing the tops of these. Let that dry, and then we're going to start taking my homemade sanding beam and working over the tops of these frets, and they'll all be the same. Okay, let's take our beam and we'll start going over the tops of these frets and see what's what. You know, these are very, very, very consistent. I've got a little low spot right here. Very minimal. Very, very minimal. It looks like I'm not going to have to do much to this at all, which I wasn't expecting to have to do much. Yeah, this is really good. Really, really good. I'm just barely, just the slightest amount right here on this fret. I know you probably can't see it very well, what I'm talking about, but this is so consistent. I'm really surprised. Really surprised I didn't have any more to do than what I'm having to do here. I'm going to go just a couple of more strokes with this, and I believe we're going to be fine. I'm not really, I don't think that I'm going to be, I don't think I'm going to have to really crown any of these. I don't believe it's going to be necessary to crown any of it, because I'm not taking enough off the top to do it. I'm just barely grazing this. This is really, I'm really happy with this. What I would normally do, since I'm not going to be dressing the frets, I want to show you what I would be using to dress the frets if I had to. If I had to take much off the tops of these with this sanding beam, I would have to go over and get the crown back. I would be flattening it out. This is a wide and medium file. You can see, you can look at the end of it here, how it's curved. That's what brings the top of your crown back. If I had to do much of this at all, I would have to go back with this and bring the crown back. And that process is pretty much the same. It's a matter, say I had to do a lot of leveling. Say I got my leveling done. What I would have to do would be to take all of this down until I get to the last bit of, to where I had the last little bit of dye left. After I did that, had it all taken down, I would take this over the top and I'd bring the crown back. You know, I'd dye it all over again like I did the first time, and then you want to run this over it until you leave just the smallest amount of dye. That would be dressing the fret, and then you have to go back with steel wool to get all the scratches out and so on and so forth, but that's another video for another time. I'm pretty much going to leave this alone. I don't need, there's nothing I need really to do with this, except for I'm going to go back over and take steel wool, where I've taken the sandpaper on this, take steel wool, and I'm going to go back over the tops, and I'll be done with it.